Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
It's sad that I did no better.
Dude, I practiced a whole song earlier.
Well, I'm glad that's all we got on.
Was it that one?
I was gonna just keep going. No, actually, I don't even remember what it was. I think it was like an old hymn, like Amazing Grace or something, but the melody line, and I kind of figured it out, and I was feeling really good about myself. And then I just pulled it out. I have no recollection of what it was, but I mean, I think I did great.
I actually could not have ever done better with any amount of practice.
Welcome to Unsought Opinions with
welcome.
the boys.
Yeah.
Who we got, Ben?
We got Daniel, Steven, and then another Steve. Our
Two?
special guest.
What?
Yeah. My lifelong friend from Japan.
Yeah,
From
man.
Centerville.
Well, from Centerville,
From
but
the
he
old
also
neighborhood.
he lives in Japan currently.
Yes.
So this is a good get for us, guys.
Yes.
Let's not ruin this.
We flew him in from our sponsors today.
You're going to give me the money later, right?
Yeah.
We'll reimburse you. Yeah, send us an itemized receipt. We're just gonna give it to our sponsor of the show. Dan, you want to take it over?
Our sponsor is Yen. We need you for Steve. Thank you.
Yen, friend of the pod. Friend of the pod.
All
right.
Anyway.
So is it Steve or Steven? What do you prefer?
I mean, preferably Steven, but either's fine.
That's how I am. Like, you can't say only call me Steven because then you're like uptight.
Well, we call him Steph.
I hate it so much.
And Bruce Bob.
I have made it abundantly clear to like my inner circle that I don't like Steve or Steph or.
You don't like Steve?
No, I don't.
Then why are you the Steve man? Self-titled.
Yeah, you did come up with that. That's
Can we not divulge usernames on the
So
I like
basically,
how the-
he'll be Steph, I'll be Steve.
There you go. There you go.
Come on. No, but anyway,
man.
so they've all ignored that, and I am now Steve or Steph, depending on with the conversation.
Yeah.
But as I was saying,
yeah.
you're uptight if you say like hardline. I need to be this or this kind of thing. But
Yeah.
Well, now it's coming across really.
I'm very uptight.
One other possibility for trying to like distinguish people here, you could call me Gabriel. It's my middle name, but
We'll just call him Steph. That's cool.
right on.
All good. But anyway, so how was your week, Steve?
That was very quiet.
Yeah, that
So
was
quiet.
very quiet.
Also, in a little inside baseball again, when you published the pod, did you eliminate the track?
No, I was going to say something. It wasn't on there.
It wasn't on.
It
Did we
made me
just-
so happy.
Didn't even come through, but it was funny.
I was like, come on. Anyway, my week was good. We had family from Italy stay over at our house. I was thinking about bringing my brother-in-law, who is Italian, to the pod to guest last week, but I don't know that he would enjoy it. So
Yeah.
we just said,
I
"It's
saw
fine."
him. Wait, I saw him last night at Buffalo Wild Wings.
I don't think you did.
Nathan.
No, he's not from Italy.
Dang
He's from California. But anyway, so they were here with us for like 12 days, and they have 2 small children, and so they left this morning, and the house is just nice and quiet. So I'm enjoying that part about my life.
Nice.
Yeah. Dan, how's your week?
Well, for my birthday, we went up to. We
Hey,
went to.
Tell us.
Yeah,
tell
thank
us
you.
that it's
Thank
your
you.
birthday
Thank you.
without telling us it's your birthday.
Applause, standing ovation.
Yeah, we drove up to Pennsylvania for Hannah's grandmother's funeral.
Ooh.
But
For your
for my birthday.
This took a
Happy
turn.
birthday.
This took a turn.
It was planned for a while. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways,
Wait, which
Wait, was it?
so,
How did she die, Dan?
I don't know.
This is insane that we're just cracking up laughing at this right now.
No, we made it a fun time. Not not necessarily the funeral. We did some mini golfing, some regular golfing. Went to the movies. Went to a baseball game.
You missed the
Played
funeral?
ultimate frisbee. No, we did that.
You did that. Okay.
Yeah. I met a lot of people I never met before, so part of the family. Well, they all met each other too, because she was one of 10 or one of 9.
The grandmother was?
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's tons of cousins meeting each other for the first time.
Are they like long-standing, like Pennsylvania Dutch?
Got us beat.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
okay.
Well, they're like that side is more from Philly area.
Oh, it seems like everyone in that family has 12 kids.
I feel
Does
like
seem that way.
Can I just mention something? Remember when Sarah was on and we just like talked about nothing
We just
concerning
completely ignored her. That's my goal for every guest. We have them on and we just don't talk to her.
Yeah. So
Well,
Steve-
guys, it's been great.
yeah, he's got to go. Yeah, so Steve, tell us about yourself, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess I'll start since we're talking about big families. I'll just
Yeah.
talk about my family. I'm one of 7 sons. My mother really wanted a girl. You know, if anyone is unhappy with their daughter,
She's
We're
still taking
adopting.
donations.
but yeah, so grew up in that family, and went to
Oh yeah.
Ben's church for probably like the first 12, 13 years of my life.
Yeah.
I'd say, and then gosh, I'm just trying to figure out what to say. I mean, I love Jesus. I love Japan. Kind of like a love triangle,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but
When we were kids, I mean, what, you were 12 when we stopped going to the same church, probably.
Yeah.
Right? So before that, he was already obsessed with Japan. Like, he loved the culture. Like, he was so young and he was like learning the language, and I was like, what is this guy's crazy?
What
And-
attracted you to Japan?
man, it's a long story. I mean, because it did start pretty early. I think, one of the earliest things was I was a big video gamer, especially back in the day. And I was really into Nintendo, and I found out, someone told me one day that Nintendo's a Japanese company. I'm like, oh man, that's cool, And
Nice.
so, and then seeing an occasional anime show on Cartoon Network, #Toonami.
Is that one of yours?
No, dude, it's not a show. It's
Oh.
like
a
a sub
block.
network.
My
Yeah.
bad.
it's kind of like Adult Swim on Cartoon Network, but they had Toonami, which was like all the
I know what that is too.
yeah.
Yeah.
No
Well,
big
good.
deal.
But yes, I mean, that was kind of got me into it. And then I guess probably around 7th grade, which is when I started to, really get, I guess, more, not that I wasn't before, but just kind of started getting more serious about my faith, and found out in this intro to foreign languages class where we were learning a little bit of everything, a little bit of Spanish, French, German, Latin. And then at the end we had some extra time. So they're we're going to learn Japanese, and I'm yeah. And in that class, we learned that it was only 1% Christian in Japan, and that just really kind of hit me. I was like, man, in America we got a buffet of churches, anywhere you go, and but in Japan there's a lot of cities that don't have a church, and so. So, up to that point, I was thinking of being a video game designer, but then I'm like, God, maybe do you want me to do something else with my life? And so that was kind of when I started thinking and praying about it. And then probably the final kind of, real turning point was about 2 years later. It was 9th grade, and I was praying, and I'm like, God, if you want me to do this, I'm willing. And I think honestly I wanted to. I just needed a sign. And so I was like, God, just show me or tell me somehow. And then a couple days later, there's this meeting at my church, and went there, and afterwards met this woman who had just come back from working with missionaries in Japan. And after that I was like, all right, okay, God, that's your sign, right? I'm gonna take that. I'm just gonna run with it. And so yeah, so that's pretty much how it started, I'd say.
That's so cool.
That is
Yeah.
so cool. So, how old were you when you first went to Japan?
Yeah. So then, 2 years after that.
So you're 14.
11th grade. So maybe
Oh, okay.
so maybe 16.
Mhm.
At that point, my brother's fiance's family, had some connections to a sister church in Japan, and they just happened to be doing a mission trip there. And so, by that point, people were more and more already being like, yeah, Steve's a Japan guy. Like, and just like, more and more of you, whenever someone had a Japan connection, they would just be like, let's tell Steven. It's
If you're
it's-
not watching the YouTube stream, the man has samurai hair right now. He's putting off a whole vibe.
I was noticing that too.
Yeah. So I was able to go on that short-term mission trip. So that was 2007, and I was probably like 16 years old then. So 16, 17.
So you hated it and you never went back.
No, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. Definitely confirmed my love
Sure.
for Japan, and so yeah.
Okay, so how old were you when you moved there?
So I feel like over the past.
Guess spot.
My dog heard a gunshot. Apologies.
I would say since 2012, I've spent almost 9 years there, but I've come and gone a
I
number
see.
of times.
Okay.
So in that whole time, I studied abroad for a year, and then I taught English for 5 years, and then for the past almost 3 years, I've been working with a new church plant in Tokyo called Awakening Tokyo. So
Dang.
yeah.
What's the demographic for Tokyo? I know the whole country is 1%, but is it like, as far as Christianity in Tokyo? And sorry, that maybe you don't know that.
I'm not sure about the demographic for Tokyo specifically.
Okay.
But probably it's a little higher.
Okay.
I would think, just because it's, there's more young trending people, and there's just a lot of churches.
It's more cosmopolitan. And,
Yeah.
Okay.
So
What is the main religion? Is it Hindu? Dude, I don't know.
Nothing about it.
Hindu would be India.
All right, Buddhism.
Yeah, now you're getting close. Yeah. So
There's got to be at least one Hindu guy.
actually, funny enough, in Japan, one really popular type of food is Indian. And just about every city that I've lived in Japan, which is probably like 3 or 4 now, there's always an Indian restaurant. And it's run by like someone from India or Bangladesh, so it's always like authentic. And you get like the Indian non-curry like set with the lassi, like low key, pretty popular in Japan. But anyway,
Nice.
so there are
Sounds
Hindus. Yeah. But
I had a feeling.
but I would say that most Japanese are here's a big word for you, amalgamation, which means like a mix of religions. They're usually a mix of Shinto and Buddhism, and with some ancestor worship thrown in there as well, all covered with a veneer of just secularism. So I feel like I'm like describing like a dessert dish.
So what a lot of Americans are with Christianity, would you say a lot of the Japanese are with like Shintoism, or do they do Taoism there, or is that more China?
That's more China. I mean, there might be some of that influence, but
Okay.
you wouldn't hear you wouldn't hear really Japanese being like, "Oh, I'm Taoist."
Okay. But like Shintoism is everything is God, basically, correct? Do I have that right?
Yeah. It's like, there's a God in the chair, there's a God in that tree, there's a God in your hat,
Really?
Yeah, but their definition of a God is slightly different from our English understanding of the word God, because the word kami, their word for God, it's really more like a spirit that has power. It's not necessarily good or bad,
Okay.
So,
Huh.
yeah. So, but I mean, so most people, I mean, they're not, I feel like it's kind of like if you think of nominal Christians here, where it's like, oh, I go to church on Christmas and Easter. It's like, that's how most people are about their Buddhism.
Okay.
It's like, when our kids are ages 3, 5, and 7, we'll go to the shrine. When someone dies, we'll have a Buddhist funeral and do the rites for that. And at the end of every year, at the end of each year, we'll go to the shrine and we'll burn our calendar and eat some food.
Right.
I mean,
So like by
So-
name only kind of thing. So apathy is not just hating Christianity, but like the world at large, as far as when it comes to religion.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel. I mean, and it's not to say that there's no religion, because it certainly is a part of like their identity or just kind of their worldview. But I think that secularism or modernity definitely kind of has this. Excuse me. This just kind of this kind of weakening or dulling effect, or just kind of and.
She's
think-
very interesting.
Yeah. And I think also just in today's globalizing world, there's just a lot of like mixing,
Sure.
cross pollination. I think, I'm doing a seminary class online and studying about like postmodern theology and just about kind of like how the postmodern world and its effect on, theology and just, and it's just interesting how modernity was like trying to say like, that like everything's explainable by science and then postmodern just kind of complexifies things and so it's, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, just, makes it more complex and it's not like no one person has like the final say and so, but anyway, that's a whole nother conversation.
For sure, dude.
But
Do you find that there's a lot of depressed people there? Because don't they work like crazy?
yeah, they
Like,
do.
that's what I've heard, at least.
They do, yeah. No, I mean, and I've seen it. I've even experienced it on some level where it's like, because I worked in schools for like 5 years, and it's like, of course, so the teachers and the students, they're there and they, do the class thing from like 8 to like 3 or 4, but then they got all this other stuff, like because club activities are a really big part of like school life there. And so like probably like 80% of kids are in like some sort of club, whether if it's, the baseball club. Baseball's actually really popular over there.
Oh yeah, I'm
Yes.
aware.
Yeah.
Japanese baseball is actually getting really popular here as well.
yeah, Shohei
All,
Ohtani.
all of our best baseball players
Exactly.
are Japanese.
Yeah, so I mean, like, so baseball club, volleyball club, badminton club, tennis club, table tennis club. There's probably some other sports that I'm forgetting there. But then they also have like brass band club and violin club, cooking club. I mean, like so they're like all the students are in.
You could have used the violin
Dude,
club.
they're not as good as I am.
So and some of these clubs may only be like once or twice a week, but some of them, especially the the sports clubs, will be like 5 or 6 days a week, and so and then they got like games on Sundays and then usually there's some sort of class on Saturdays. Might be every other week or it might be optional, but some students do that. So it's like so you got these students that are basically, a lot of them are doing something school related 6 or even 7 days a week. And then you got teachers that are doing that too. And the other thing that's crazy is like the coaches for these clubs usually have to be people that are like employed by the school, i.e. the teachers. So you got these teachers, like they're teaching classes all day. And then after that, then some of them, they go and they teach their, the club, sometimes until like 6 or 7. And then they work on like their class prep for the next day.
Good grief. Dude.
And so
That's crazy.
I mean, of course, not everyone does everything I've just listed, but I mean, still, it's like there's some teachers that it's like 7 to 7 on a regular basis,
Yeah.
for like 6 days a week, and it's just like,
That is brutal.
Do you see people like burnt out a lot, or is it like that's just the culture that's accepted and that's what you do?
Well, I mean, so admittedly, this is, I feel like, half the story, because I feel like though it is a lot of work, I think there's also definitely more of a communal aspect
Sure,
to it.
yeah.
Because, I mean, like I had a Japanese friend that I met in college, This is before I went over there, and I was talking about like, yeah, don't they work so hard? And he's like, but yeah, but it was fun, was what he would say. And I remember when I was working as a teacher too. There's they have homeroom teachers. Where it's like so another responsibility they have, where it's like the students are divided up into these classes, and they, unlike in America where it's like you have different classes you go to, and then when you go to the next school year, you get like a new batch of teachers, right? In Japan, it's like you have the same class of 30 students that you're with, you do all your classes together. And then when you move up, your teachers move up with you. And so as a result, there's much more relationship,
Sure.
And these homeroom teachers, they're basically like these they're basically like pastors to the children, spiritually speaking, because when there's conflicts, they handle it. They kind of help guide them in like their career decisions and of course the grading and it's just like they do so much related to these kids' lives.
It's like a mentorship as opposed to just being a teacher.
In a way, yeah. And so and I remember there was one time I was coming home from like this dinner party with some teachers, or it's called nomikai, which is like drinking party, but like eating and drinking. And one of the guys, he was a young teacher, and it's like he was busy, but he was like, man, I love being a homeroom teacher. And so I think there is like a community aspect to their schools, which I think is beautiful. But that's not to say there definitely is some overworking going on, and there are some people where it's just like, you have kids, right? Like, do they ever get to see you? And like, and I remember there's one guy I knew where he was an older gentleman, and I noticed that he just like, he would basically be at the school like all the time, like last person to leave, one of the first people to get there, and even if he wasn't working, like there were like hours where it was clear that he was like reading comics online or something, and it's just like, I mean, I don't know the story, but I imagine that something's not okay with his home life.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of a sad story where like for him, work was an escape from, something.
Better work than like being at the bar. Like
Well,
when I was working
true.
at the
He worked at the bar, Steve.
That's funny.
So when you do, sorry, you got something?
No, you
Oh, so you said you're working on a church plant in Tokyo, right?
Yeah.
So what does your work look like there with the church plant itself?
Yeah. Excuse me, man. So the church is about 5 years old. I've been there for, almost 3 years now. So I wasn't there for the first 2 years, but it's a pretty new church, and so because of that, it's very much like a startup where it's just like people are wearing multiple hats and doing different things, and things are changing the way of doing things, and and things are growing, and so it's just like the way we were doing things 2 years ago is not the way we were doing it a year ago, which was not the way it was 6 months ago, which is not the way we're doing it now.
Yeah.
And so, but I guess so. I mean, so in that time of in this time span. Yeah, I do speak English. Sometimes
It's your second language. It's your second language at this point.
We need Google Translate if you need to speak some Japanese for us.
What was I gonna say? Yeah. So in the time span that I've been there, I've done everything from text stuff, translation stuff, leading Bible studies, of course, evangelism. We do a lot of street evangelism as a church, and just other random tasks, event coordinating. I mean, just lots of different things.
Is this an American plant in Japan, or is it all like Japanese and the one white guy?
You being the white guy.
I thought that was
Thanks for that clarification.
Just in case you were wondering.
He's the only one in the country.
Well, I mean, so that also has changed. So when I first got there, I was the only white guy.
Now it's trendy.
Yeah, the lead pastors, it's a couple. Husband is Japanese, and the wife is from Hong Kong. Both speak English pretty well, but they got trained at the Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry over in Redding, California. And, and then they did their internship, at another charismatic ministry in Europe, Awakening Europe. And so while the leader, as leaders, Japanese and Hong Kong, definitely, more local than me, but because their training was here, they definitely carry, some of that DNA. And I think their heart is to, carry and just bring revival to Japan. And the reality is there just aren't really many schools or movements like that in Japan, and so when wanting to gather a team of a leadership team, and wanting people that have that revival DNA, they and it's like a 2-3 year program if you do the whole thing, and so they brought on a few missionaries from America and from Europe to help them lead and get that rolling. But some of them didn't come for the first few years. So the first, I would say year that I was there, only white guy. But then after that, some others came, and so now I would say our community is pretty mixed. I'd say 50% Japanese, 50% internationals, and so yeah.
And you're not directly affiliated with Bethel anymore, right? It's just they went through the program there.
Yeah, no, it's not officially related. I mean, of course, they have a lot of friends and just networking.
Sure.
But yeah.
That's cool.
When you do your street ministry, do most people have a concept of Christianity and know the basics, or is it totally foreign to them?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would say their base of knowledge is definitely lower there than here. The most is maybe in their world history class, maybe they learned a little bit about Christianity, or maybe if they went to a Christian school, quote unquote, they're like, oh yeah, singing hymns back in the day was nostalgic for me, and they probably had chapel and maybe a religion class and learned more about Christianity. But even so, honestly, unfortunately, a lot of those schools, the Christians that are there, are kind of liberal ones, and so it's the stuff they're teaching. I don't know how much gospel's actually in it.
Wow.
God bless them, but
So is there a lot of Christian schools there then, or?
We would call it mission schools, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, one of the messages, I'm trying to remember. It's just a lot of the teachings or messages that I think they do share in these chapels. It's just kind of be a good person and visit the homeless shelter, and it's it's good, but it's yeah. So anyway, yeah.
What do you think the hardest lesson you've learned in your whole nine years? Total, back
Coming
and
up
forth?
on 9 years, yeah.
What would be the one hardest lesson that you've learned?
Ah, man.
These kinds of questions are always so difficult.
This is a hard question.
That's why I gave it to you before we.
Yeah.
Also, what's your most embarrassing moment?
We'll get to that.
I thought you were going to ask me a different question.
Yeah, exactly. That's good.
That wasn't on the list.
There it is.
Yeah. I think the hardest lesson, and it is a personal thing.
Well, don't share it if it's too personal.
Well, I won't go in deep,
yeah.
but I would say, as a single man that wants to be married,
Oh yeah.
the hardest lesson that I think it's something that we probably have to relearn throughout our lives, but just surrender.
Yeah.
You know, surrendering to God, trusting Him, letting Jesus truly be first. I
Yeah.
think, of course, as Christians, we all love Jesus and, make Him first. But I think, I think about at the end of the 1 John, like he ends, so many of these other letters, they're like, yeah, greet so-and-so, and like, God bless you and be with you. His last words are like, dear children, keep yourselves from idols. But I feel like it's so like real, because it's just like, how often do we like, idolize things in our hearts without even realizing? And it's not that we don't love Jesus, but, whether if it's, certainly we can idolize things that are not good, like different sins. But we can also idolize things that are good, like family or marriage or, or a successful ministry. And it's just like, just trying to, on the one hand, being honest about my heart and what I do want, but at the same time, just letting go and just being like, Jesus, I want to choose you first. And, you are my reward. And even though it doesn't like feel like, even though I feel like I want this thing, just recognizing that, Jesus, you are the one that ultimately satisfies me, even when like my feelings are telling me otherwise.
Yeah.
And so I would say that's probably the hardest lesson that I probably am learning
Yeah.
still.
And honestly, like, that is probably the ultimate example of surrender or like being barren and not being able to have kids or something like that. Like that, it's constantly in your face, especially with society the way it is and stuff. So I can't imagine, but like anything that we have is the Christian walk is just learning that surrender thing. I don't know if it's something that you ever truly embrace until we die, but and then you realize how great Jesus is rather than just this idea of Him. But I appreciate you sharing that. That's
Thank you.
that's vulnerable, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now the embarrassing. What was
Now the juicy stuff.
Yeah. What's an interesting thing you learned in all this?
You mean just kind of like in my, my, I guess, ministry and journey in Japan. And I guess, I mentioned that I'm kind of doing the seminary online. And so just kind of putting this together. I think, when you say interesting, do you mean like funny or just like interesting? Like,
It can
that's
be
cool. Like,
yeah, whatever.
Okay.
It could be about ministry. It could be about just the Japanese culture. It could
Sure.
be. I went to Guatemala on a mission trip 2 weeks ago,
Yeah,
and so I was telling them a story of where the lady told me to pop a cap on the counter, and so I dinged up our counter and everything, and then I realized that I was speaking poor Spanish, and she was saying to use the bottle opener, and I'm just destroyed her property. And stuff. So it's just like that kind of like self-deprecating, or
Okay.
if it's anything that you have, it's
okay.
just
Well, I definitely got some funny experiences, some crazy experiences in Japan, if you want to hear that too. But I would say the most interesting thing that I've learned, is I think that going cross-cultural or going cross cultures, I feel like that it really is something that God wants to use to grow us closer to Him. And I think about it, a really cool example was in Acts chapter 10, is when like Holy Spirit comes to Peter and says, hey, Peter, why don't you go over to this Roman centurion's house and do some cool stuff? Like, and so he goes and, and he has the whole thing with like, surely not, Lord, these are dirty animals. And God's like, don't call dirty what I've called clean, right? And so, Peter goes over and shares the gospel with Cornelius and his family. And of course, and then Holy Spirit falls, they get transformed and, and it's awesome. And what I think is easy to overlook is, of course, Cornelius was changed by his encounter with Peter. Peter shared the gospel, he got filled with the Holy Spirit. But what we often miss is that Peter was also transformed through his encounter with Cornelius. Because before that encounter, Peter thought that like all these Gentiles, they need to become, they need to get circumcised, they need to receive Jesus, and and just like all this stuff. But Holy Spirit challenged Peter and was like, I can move through these people too. And so through Cornelius, Peter actually came to a deeper understanding of who God is. And I think, so I feel like that cross-cultural experiences are part of God's plan for growing the character of Christ in us. And I think,
Dude, this is a really good answer.
It's really
yeah. Well, and I think it's also part of why Jesus commissioned us to go to the ends of the earth, to go to Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. Because, yes, he wants everyone to have salvation in Christ, but he also wants to form the character of Christ in us. And, so anyway.
Dude, that's really
Pastor
good.
Stephen will be coming to a
Yeah.
church near you. No, so I lived in Costa Rica for a year
Yeah.
and was serving out of school and teaching English and doing youth group stuff and whatnot. Something that I developed was kind of this like jaded mentality that like, why am I here? I don't understand their culture. I don't understand all their subtext and culture and things. Like I could be empowering a Costa Rican here to reach these people. And so I kind of left like feeling kind of that way. That answer is fascinating. I'm going to chew on that a lot. But
Yeah.
do you have any more to add to that? Like, why does God have you there specifically as opposed to empowering a Japanese person in that culture? You know what I mean? And you can just rest on that previous answer and then it's growing you and all that. That's
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think part of, for example, just with you being in Costa Rica, I think
great.
I
You just say that in Japanese.
I think it probably would be Costa Rica in Japanese. But I feel like, so kind of building on what I said, it's like, I think, of course, you're there to share the gospel and serve the Costa Ricans. But Holy Spirit was probably also working in your heart.
yeah.
Maybe if it was, whether if it was humility and, and so, yeah, but I mean, I think that, I feel like that it's always a two-way road, that there's always something to receive. So we need to make sure that we're humble and willing to learn and grow. But I think we always have something to give as well, whether if it's, a new perspective or joy or hope or fun, something as simple as like being another person to like play soccer with, or, or like if you're in like this, if you're serving in like this orphan village where there's all these kids that don't have father figures, I mean, to come through and love on them and just speak life into that, I mean, I'm just thinking of a random example off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing you would say, because you said you were feeling jaded, I thought you were going to go in a different direction with that.
Oh, I might have, but I
And-
just only
and-
gave you a little.
Oh,
I'm just a
okay.
jaded person. I'm just angry. But no.
Well, I think sometimes what happens when we go cross cultures is we experience culture shock.
Oh, for
And
sure.
we're like, man, these people are crazy, or they're messed up. I don't know why they're doing it this way. It's all wrong. Or, I feel like they don't respect me, or, and I feel like it's very common, to get jaded, when you go across cultures. I actually experienced this when I was teaching English also, and because there were these other American English teachers who were just jaded about the Japanese English education system, which, I'll be honest, needs some work. But that's another talk for another day. But it's like in the face of culture shock and feeling misunderstood, or not respected, or whatever the things you're struggling with, you usually have one of two options. It's like you can either, get jaded or get bitter and just kind of, or you can choose to like humble yourself and be willing to learn, or just ask Holy Spirit, like, what do you want to do here? And Just to give an example, and I'm not saying that you were like bitter against the culture. I wasn't saying,
Okay.
not
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
that. But for me, like, because in the English teaching, environment there, it was basically this setup, and this setup is in a lot of schools throughout the country, where it's like you are an ALT, an assistant language teacher, the native. and, and so basically you go to these different schools and you work with these different Japanese English teachers. Excuse me. And you're working together to teach these classes with them. And some of these teachers, there's a few that'll just kind of let you do whatever you want to do, like give you the floor and you can teach whatever you want to teach. The majority of them will kind of work with you, and you like come up with a lesson plan together to teach. Well, okay. But then there's a few teachers where it's like they don't want you in the room. like they just want to be left alone to do their own thing, and so they basically use you as like a tape recorder, is what they say. Where it's like, read this list of vocabulary words. All right, thanks. Now just stand there for the next 40 minutes while I teach my lesson. Like, is their attitude.
Yeah.
And so as like a native speaker, like you see them teaching and doing things kind of not right sometimes, and it's easy to get jaded and cynical and kind of be like, what's the point of me being here, and it's like, and I could have done that, but I was like, I love the Japanese. I don't want to have that attitude towards these people. And so I was like, what can I learn here? And is there was there like better ways I could have used my time, or maybe more productive, jobs or whatever? I mean, like maybe, yeah, but I felt like by just kind of humbling myself and just, serving in whatever way they wanted me to serve, I was able to see like Japanese culture like from a new perspective, or just like a different perspective that I couldn't even get when I studied abroad there, because I got to see how Japanese teachers run their classrooms and just like what the cultural like atmosphere is like with that. And and it's like I feel like I gained a deeper understanding of just like Japanese culture and society through that experience, and with my love for Japan intact, which I'm thankful for.
I was gonna say the lesson being that they're jerks in the custard. No, no, but I think what you said was like whenever you're going through a garbage time,
Sure.
humbling yourself and saying, what can I do better, or what can I learn from this, is like such a mature lesson that I still suck at, and try and teach myself that, or try and remind myself of that. Like, what is God? Even like when I'm arguing with my spouse or something, like, what is God trying to teach me? I know that I'm right. I know that I'm in the good, but what am I missing here that I should be learning and stuff?
Yeah.
And so like,
Yeah.
that's just like, such a hard lesson, but it's such a good lesson too. It's
yeah. And I'm not saying I do it perfectly either. I mean, because it is a hard lesson. Yeah. But God is always at work.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going through my questions
Sure.
that I had.
What was there anything that shocked you that you weren't expecting about the culture when you first got there?
Dude, he was like obsessed with the Japanese culture before he went. I think you had to know most of the things.
That's why I'm curious.
Are you talking about like some crazy experiences?
Yeah.
Maybe, just something like I went to Hungary and they didn't use ice cubes in their drinks.
Oh,
which I was like,
yeah.
Dude,
What?
come on.
Really? Did they have ice cubes for other purposes or no ice cubes?
They made fun of us for asking for ice cubes.
Dude, what?
Who's your ice cube guy, guys?
Yeah, I mean, we have them, but we don't use them for that. What?
I had to ask
to
for
keep
some
the
at
fish cool.
McDonald's.
You had to do what?
I had to get them at McDonald's.
Represent.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some cultural differences. Have you guys heard about the toilets there?
No.
The bidets.
Like
Dude.
the
They're
Spaceship toilet?
yes.
Okay.
Oh.
Wait, what?
So-
Spaceship toilets. These things are on another level. Like,
They're out of this world.
Oh.
is it this one?
Nice.
He runs it better than I do.
I've never even done that before.
I've never hit the right one before.
Is this what you're looking
he's
at?
1 for 1.
These.
I mean, that's one example. They
Okay.
actually usually look a little better than that.
Oh, sorry. This is a bad example.
I gotta tell you, it looks normal enough.
So basically, it's like these toilets, and they just have all these features on them. You know, my favorite memory of one is like
Oh no!
Favorite memory of his toilet.
I was at this one restaurant or bar or diner place.
Just kind of hanging out in the bathroom, kind of thing.
Well, I mean, I had to go to the bathroom.
As one does.
And so I go to the bathroom and I shut the door behind me. I turn around and I literally see the toilet seat is automatically rising to
Nice.
greet me, and there's lights flashing from within the toilet. It literally was like a spaceship.
It's funny
That's
because we were just talking about this the other week that how a lot of times we can look down on Europeans and stuff and they don't shave their armpits, what's going on or whatever. But I'm the rest of the world looks at us like we're cavemen when it comes to the bathroom and the toilet and stuff. We literally,
Well, maybe Japan.
yeah, Japan definitely.
I think we're
Definitely
a
does.
step above the rest.
Dude,
Yeah.
I look at my toilet compared to this spaceship thing, and then you just take a balled up piece of toilet paper and what?
Yeah.
Or they're doing full.
Yeah. So they got, of course, they got the bidets.
Nice.
My favorite feature, it's the heated seats, bro.
Yeah, that's
like
what's up.
I have reverse culture shock now when I come back and it's wintertime and I sit on it. It's like, man. Yeah. So they also for the ladies, they've got they have a special button and it basically makes a running water sound.
Oh,
So
So they just hide it?
So the people outside don't hear you doing your business. It's just
whoa. And that's just for the ladies?
well, I mean, guys use it too. I mean, I figure the women probably appreciate it more.
yeah.
Do they do urinals there, or is it?
Oh yeah, they're
Okay,
urinals.
okay.
Yeah. And then they got the bidet, and they also have a butt cleaner. They got one for both sides. And
What?
well,
Both sides.
for women, the other side. The other side.
Hey, it's not just for women.
Oh my
Sorry, probably dump that.
God,
Yeah, timestamp that. We'll cut that out.
oh man, I have a few crazy stories to share.
Yeah.
One of them is a little
Fringe?
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, well, if you decide you don't like it, we'll cut it.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'll share
Let
the
it be
fringe.
said,
one.
we
I did my pause.
We don't cut things.
All right, so I'll share the fringe story.
Yeah.
You guys can decide if you want to keep it or leave it,
Yeah,
and then I'll
okay.
get into the other one. All right. So both of these stories are during my study abroad year. So this is back in 2012. So I'm, living in my dorm, and because I'm all about trying to go native or go local. I found a dorm where it's 80% Japanese, as Japanese as I can get. And this particular dorm is kind of a well-known dorm, and they have some customs, and I almost kind of feel like it's if you cross-pollinated Japanese culture with frat boy culture. So, anyway, but I mean they were cool, and they were kind and respectful towards me. But anyway, they told me they have this one custom where they do this thing every year, and it's called the Yamanote hike. And Yamanote is the name of one of the train lines in Tokyo. And basically what they do is they all cosplay. You know cosplay?
No.
You don't know cosplay?
Okay,
You have
so
a mic.
It's like
What
dress-
is that?
Dressed up like characters, right?
It's like
Um,
Comic-Con stuff where people dress up
yeah.
like people, like Star Wars.
almost like Halloween.
So I call that LARPing.
Well, that's if
LARPing?
That's if they're jousting,
Oh, that-
sword fighting stuff.
What's the difference, dude?
Cosplay is like
You're
people-
straight up. You're dressing up like the guy.
If you dress up like Chewbacca, you're
That's a LARP, dude.
You're not. If you go on a quest as Chewbacca, I think you
Dude,
cross into luck.
That's a LARP
Oh,
if I've ever heard
wow.
one. Okay,
Wow.
so cosplay.
Wow,
then.
I haven't heard of this LARPing thing.
Oh, dude, it's big.
It stands for live action role play.
I
It's
only
like
know
people that
because
go-
of him.
I've never done it, but
Oh, yeah,
you'll
okay.
see people in the park that are like going at it. Having
Dude, I've
battles.
walked
Do you?
into actively LARPing.
Oh my gosh.
I did make a LARPing video at JMU
Did you really?
for Jeff for his class.
How have I never heard
I bet
of
you
this?
Jeff LARPs like in his free time.
Actually, he tried to get
Seems like a LARPer.
campus-wide LARP going on.
Dude, yeah. Well,
wow.
anyway. All right,
It didn't
so
happen.
so
All right,
you're
yes.
cos LARPing.
Okay, so we were basically everyone cosplayed as, so everything from like Pikachu to a colon doctor to a woman to all these different things. Because it's all guys. It's an all guys
Pikachu,
store.
A colon doctor, a woman. This list.
Or like a schoolgirl, a guy dressing as a schoolgirl. And so,
Yeah, we got that here too.
oh man.
Yeah, we're gonna dump that as well.
This was actually a straight guy dressing as a schoolgirl, just to clarify. So everyone cosplayed, and then in our cosplay costumes, we would hike or basically go on a walk in the nighttime, like all through the night, through the city of Tokyo along this train line, and like all night, So we start at like 9 p.m. And so I almost didn't do it, but my friend's like, "Dude, you totally got to do this. It's a great experience." I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, okay, and I'm glad I did it. But so going through this hike with my friends, and
Wait, what are you dressed as?
Are you the schoolgirl?
No.
He still has the hair.
No, I decided very last minute, so I didn't have like a proper costume. I just had all of these crazy colored clothing. I can't believe I had all this stuff, but I had like a bright red shirt that had the word samurai on the front, like a total tourist. So I had that.
Oh, really? They don't.
And
They
then-
don't rock that over there, dude. That's like
No.
what? Okay, all right.
They're
I'm
all
learning.
They want to wear English. I was like, we think it's cool to wear Japanese. They think it's cool to wear English.
Do they have the cool like misinterpretation things? Where
Oh
it's-
yeah, their English grammar is horrible. It's like if an ESL student tried to make a poem.
Dan, do you remember the shirts we bought in Panama? It said like
America,
go, and then the other one was like, please do not use drugs.
The
Yeah, that
instructions-
sounds about right.
The instructions we get for like cheap stuff from overseas is so bad
Yeah.
and hilarious.
Okay, anyway, all right. So
you
so
went-
I had this bright red samurai shirt, and then I had these lime green like cargo shorts,
nice.
and then I had like another color of socks, and I had and then I had a yellow shirt. Yes, and then my friend, he's like, "Yeah, you look like a revolutionary." I'm like, "Yeah, let's go with that."
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're hiking. We're going all along, and then we're having a good time. It's fun. And probably about like halfway through the night, we take a stop at this park. Okay. And they were telling me that like, we got this custom. It's called, we have this custom. It's called burning the jungle. And I'm like, okay. So like, so we're getting to the park, and some of the lower classmen, because Japan, it's very much about like the hierarchy, and upperclassmen, lowerclassmen, that notion is stronger there than here. But anyway, so they start getting some of these lower classmen kind of pressuring, like, you got to burn the jungle, and or maybe they even called it like burning the monkeys out of the jungle. I don't know. And I'm like,
so
what is
interested to
this?
see what happens.
And so literally what they were doing was they took a match and they lit it. And they, we'll just say they lit
Are you
some,
about to go to jail right now?
they lit some hair on fire
Ugh.
Oh,
down there.
okay.
Wait. Oh, that's the monkey that they're scaring out of the jungle. Oh,
So
dude,
And-
it all became clear to me right now.
it's so like I think I saw one of them having. I'm like, no, I'm good. Oh, I'm good.
Are you
guys."
an underclassman or upperclassman?
No. Thankfully, I was considered an upperclassman because
Okay.
study abroad students, complimentary like third year status.
Sure. Okay.
It's so. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, no, my jungle's good. It's
We'll leave that
ain't no
monkey
monkeys
alone.
here, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So that's probably the weirdest experience.
That is wild.
Yeah. So story number 2. This one's more PG. This is pretty freaking cool. Also during my study abroad in Japan, so they have this kind of event or this holiday. It's called like Sports Day, Taikusai, and so it's common that they, it's kind of like field day, for like school. It's like there's a bunch of sports and almost kind of like a mini Olympics for your school, if you will. They have all these different events and stuff, and so this same dorm, had this tradition of doing a Taikusai, and all these different sports events. They've got like track stuff and different sports, and they even have a few kind of goofy things like how many like beans can you pick up with chopsticks in a minute or something like that.
0.
How's your chopstick game? You good?
Oh yeah, it's cool. I eat Jello with chopsticks.
Nobody
Get
eats
outta
Jello
here.
with chopsticks, dude. You're the only guy in Japan doing that. It's like,
No,
you
it's a
guys are like,
thing.
this guy's crazy. I just do the fork.
No.
This is the same guy that did the monkey thing. Sorry.
No, you're
Sports
good.
day.
Yes, yeah. So, but probably the coolest, craziest sport they have is called kibasen. Have you heard of this?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
I like that he picked
mean-
the mic up to shake your head.
Well, that's because he said no. I was like, yeah, no, I agree with
Okay,
that. No,
all
Or
right.
if that's an English name.
All right. So kibasen, here's what it is. So there's I'll just break down basically the concept of kibasen, because it means it's like tree horse war is what it translates to.
Oh
literally.
boy, what do you
Oh,
light
tree
on
horse war,
fire
yeah.
in this one?
This one's PG. Trust me.
Okay.
So basically, what they do is it's like cooperative wrestling. So you have on the ground, you have in each kibasen team, it's a 4-man team. So you've got 3 people standing on the ground, and they're holding up one person in the air. And I think it's I'm trying to remember. I think it's 2 people are holding one leg each, and then the other person's holding up the torso, I think. And so you got, this team of 4, this kibasen versus this kibasen. And the objective, the way you win, is you get basically the people on the bottom, they are not allowed to touch the people on top. Or they're not allowed to touch the opponent on top. You can only touch your own man on top and keep him up. And then the people on top, they are wrestling and fighting and trying to get the other person to touch the ground.
Sounds like Trojan horse.
I do that
Have
all
you
the
ever
time
heard-
with
maybe.
balloons.
Or like chicken in the pool.
Okay, I'm not as
Yes.
familiar with
What is
maybe.
Trojan horse?
It sounds just like the same thing.
Okay, all right, maybe it's not as original.
I'm totally kidding. You said tree horse war, and I went to Trojan horse.
That's what I was thinking too.
I've never seen anything like this before.
Okay.
No,
okay. That's what I thought.
I feel like maybe
yeah.
one of those
That's
Japanese.
what I thought.
Nobody's ever seen this.
This is my game.
Yeah.
my
Okay,
game.
but okay. So this particular dorm though, they took it to another level. Okay, so it
They
wasn't.
didn't have 5 people on.
No. It wasn't just 4-on-4. They basically had 2 teams of 15 kibasens.
Wow.
And one of these kibasens was the VP, the VIP.
Yeah.
And so it was basically these 15 kibasens versus these 15 kibasens, and they both had their captain in the back. And so they practiced a lot before this stuff. What's our formation going to be and our strategy? And so, I watched it, and it was insane. Just like, you'd have like these teams like charging against the other team, trying to like pull them out, and oh my gosh.
So the
That
guys,
sounds so fun.
the guys on the
That
bottom
sounds
can attack the other
insane.
guys on the bottom.
No,
Or-
no.
So it's only the guys on the top
Yes.
that are just.
Are they standing or are they like laying down?
They're
They all like
I'm trying to picture how they're
Are
like
they-
holding the legs and the torso.
Yeah. Does it ever like get really floopy?
oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, Dan?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, the other thing, if the people on the bottom, if their knees touch the ground, then they go out.
That
So
specific
nice.
person.
That specific
the whole
person.
team?
No, that specific person. So sometimes you have it where it's like, Akiva Sen takes some damage, and then it's like you only got 2 people or 1 person holding you up.
That's wild. Well, it just so happens we have 4 people here. Stuart, we're gonna need you to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuart, are you looking up videos of that? No. Okay.
He's playing a
Yeah,
game.
he's playing Clash of Clans or something over there.
Yeah. So that experience was pretty unique, pretty crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so different than what we do here.
It does
So
sound
do-
like chicken.
do-
At
but-
first, I thought you were describing Nacho Libre, and I was like, dude, I know what you're about to say.
At least chicken, you fall into the water.
exactly. Like
That sounds like
falling
it can
like 6
be
feet onto the
painful.
ground. Like,
yeah.
like-
Yeah. I think there definitely have been injuries.
he's like, yeah, few deaths.
Yeah.
So, in preparation for talking about Japan and you and stuff, I looked up, just Googled weird Japan.
I wish I
so-
thought to do that.
gosh.
I came up with 10 weird but amazing things that only exist in Japan. So I want
All
to
right.
ask you about it, see if
Oh,
you can
man.
explain it.
Sure.
If you can't, I'll help you out, and then you'll be smarter about Japan.
Okay.
Okay, so tell me about noodle slurping.
Oh yeah.
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 So that one's not.
Yeah, no,
but, like-
noodle slurping is very normal. I actually slurped some noodles earlier today
Doesn't
at a
everybody do
Japanese
that?
restaurant.
Oh,
But it is because it indicates compliments to the chef. Like you are enjoying your food.
Where did you go to eat to do this?
Oh, there's a Japanese restaurant
he just
in
goes like Osaka, and he's like,
yeah, like in Fairfax City. There's a Japanese restaurant called Blue Ocean. Highly recommended for anyone who finds himself in Fairfax City. But yeah, so if you're eating Japanese noodles, it's common courtesy to slurp the noodles. Means that it's delicious. That you
Is
just
there-
can't get it into your mouth quick enough.
is it
Type
like
thing.
Whoa.
the louder you are, or it's like, okay, you're
I
being
think
too
so.
loud?
I don't know if I. Yeah, I mean, I've never been told I'm slurping too loud, nor have I ever seen anyone else told that. The one thing I will say though is that if you eat, say, this is for Japanese noodles. So if you're eating at an Italian restaurant in Japan, I don't think you'll see Japanese slurping noodles because you don't slurp spaghetti here, right? So why would you?
Maybe
do it
you
there?
don't.
Yeah. Speak for yourself, brother.
Well, anyway.
Okay, so is it like a thinner noodle then, or is it like what distinguishes a slurping noodle?
Whether or not it's Japanese origin or Western
Okay.
origin.
Got it.
Yeah.
Next one is a cuddle cafe. Have you heard of those?
Explain it a little bit.
So,
Is it with animals or people?
humans.
Of like the
So it's apparently-
the opposite sex.
Very platonic, but the opposite sex. Yeah, and you just rent a room and just get cuddled for a little while.
Wow. So I have not heard of
Not
that
heard of it.
before.
You're
but,
missing out.
but it doesn't surprise me.
Okay.
Because they
Dude,
definitely
okay.
got some.
So what ones have you heard of with animals?
Oh, what have I heard of with animals?
No, yeah, like,
Like a-
you were
a
like
cuddle
are
cafe
these
with
cuddle
animals.
cafes with people or animals? I'm just curious to know.
Yeah, no.
Dude, you
so,
cut a kitten all day.
No, they actually have a
Delicious.
lot of different cafes with different animal themes. Cat cafes are a big thing where you go and it's like a cafe, but there's cats that are just kind of roaming around that you can pet or but cats are not the only one. I've also heard of like bunny cafe, owl cafe.
Interesting.
They have actual owls.
Yes.
Oh wow.
And
Great horned.
What? What? What'd you say?
Great
Dan's
horned
getting-
owl.
We shouldn't have talked about owls around Dan. He gets weird.
We need to go, guys.
But the other one that they have Baby Piglet Cafe.
Baby piglets.
Yeah, baby piglets.
Like
My
from
friend.
Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. They keep them clean, but
Oh.
my friend, he's like, they're actually low key kind of cute. Like he went with his friend. Yeah.
All right, what's the next one?
Tell me about their vending machines.
Oh yeah. They got
Oh, you told me about that when you were in Japan, right?
they
Yes.
got some vending
Stuart
machines,
was
man.
high on the vending machines.
Yeah, they sell a lot of different things. I mean, of course, drinks. They got hot drinks though too, like cold drinks and hot drinks. And you get it out of the vending machine and it's actually like warm, like almost hot.
Nice.
Like you get coffee from a vending machine.
Ugh, coffee.
In
I
a
feel like
can.
when it drops, it would just spill everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Well, in a can.
I feel like
But,
oh, it's in a can.
yeah.
Oh, I've seen the
Well,
ones
the
that
rest
like
stop
that's
ones.
if
crazy.
the rest stop gives you
Yeah.
coffee, but it's like in a to-go cup.
Oh, yeah. There's some like that too.
But yeah,
I've seen like an instant ramen vending machine where it's like the cup. You get the
that
thing
is so
and then
cool.
it fills up with hot water for you.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen like a pastry vending machine where it's like pastries. I have not. Well, I've seen kind of online that apparently there are some vending machines that sell some kind of sketchy things too. But the other thing that's crazy about vending machines is the locations. They're just everywhere. Like of course in the city or in the town. But it's like I'm like hiking on a mountain trail, like middle of nowhere, and then it's like, what? There is a vending machine right here to quench my thirst. It's like just
That's
for
for
me.
the naughty stuff.
Yeah.
What?
And then like I've also seen like in the countryside, it's like vending machine like selling like eggs. Like,
So wild.
Those definitely break on the way down.
I don't know how that one works, but yeah.
All right, I'm gonna butcher this.
Sure.
And I'm gonna try it, but Jigokudani Monkey Parks.
Yeah.
We went over that already.
You need to say that one again.
I'll let you read it.
Shigokudani Monkey Parks. Wow.
It's these little.
Is it just a zoo with monkeys?
Yeah,
Maybe that's in like the
I
colder
feel like
areas.
I mean, I don't know much about it, but I do feel like I recognize the monkey. I feel like there are. Yeah, it's when we were trying to. Those were the monkeys we were trying to.
Trying to burn. I recognize those guys anywhere.
Oh man, no. I know that there are a few like.
Let it be said, there are actually monkeys on my phone.
Yeah. Okay, so I need to do a quick tangent to explain this. Another thing that's really popular in Japan is hot springs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And just for them when they do hot springs, they don't basically men and women are separated, but you go into the hot springs with no clothes on, naked. Just don't know if you need to cut that one out or not.
I don't think so.
I mean,
It's like very
'cause
Roman. Like,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
exactly,
yeah.
exactly, yeah. And so, and their hot springs are actually really nice. It's one of those things where it's like just the thought of like going in there with everything showing is a little intimidating, but you get used to it. You realize everyone else has nothing to hide, and
Monkeys everywhere, right?
Sure, yeah.
We'll drop that.
But yeah. So anyway, but some of these hot springs are in a region are kind of known for having these like monkeys, and it's like you're in the hot spring and it's like snowing, and you got like the snow monkeys there, and it's an experience apparently. So I think that's what Jigokudani Monkeys Park is.
How
Maybe.
often do you do that?
Hot springs
Yeah.
or well, I got some friends that are really into it. Something that's really trending right now in Japan is like saunas.
Oh yeah.
And so I
I
have
think they're becoming more popular here as well.
Oh, okay. I got a few friends where it's like they got this like routine where they're like, they go to the hot springs and before they buy like a big like 2-liter of like a sports drink or water or something, and they take it with them, and they go to the hot springs. And what they do, after bathing for a little bit, they go into the sauna, and they sit in there for as long as they can stand, like 12, 15 minutes. And then they come out, and then they get into the cold spring, like the really cold one.
Yeah.
And they just like freeze out, or chill out, no pun intended.
No more monkey.
For a couple minutes.
Monkey, I'll go.
Man, what monkey are you talking about, bro?
He means the Chocodugani ones. They're not there. They're in the colder climates.
So you jump into the cold pool for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And then you come out and you kind of cool off. And then you take a drink, and then you go back into the sauna for like another 12, 15 minutes.
Mm.
And you just rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Like, I have a few friends where it's like they'll go for like hours. I'm like, you're crazy. And so
Yeah.
I love
Might be something
So,
else too. You know what I mean?
a hot spring or a hot tub.
I mean,
I'm all about it.
yeah.
But after like 15 minutes or so, you just get bored.
Well, I did that in Hungary, the same kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Except it wasn't springs,
Were
but
there monkeys?
no monkeys. But we did spend like probably 2 hours doing all the cycling stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it is fun.
Yeah, and I think one thing is if you're by yourself, then yeah, you might get bored. But usually you're doing it with, or at least
Oh, yeah, with the
usually you're doing it
crew.
with friends or the crew, and so there's definitely the social aspect. You're
Yeah.
talking, hanging out.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, I go. Pretty much, I only go when like I'm going with friends. If we're like traveling or if there's a special occasion, I'll totally go with them. But I'm not like a couple of my friends where it's like I got a day off. I'm going to the hot springs for half the day. I'm like, yeah, have fun.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's really popular, huh?
Yeah.
What do you know about ear cleaning parlors?
Ear cleaning parlors?
Yeah.
I know nothing about that one.
Oh, it looks like a place that people go and they get their ears cleaned,
Wow.
kind of like a massage.
Wow.
I don't.
That's actually awesome.
Is that a stack
I
of
would,
wax behind that lady?
that,
Dude, it looks like yeah.
Wow.
She's like, you got a lot.
All her
I
customers.
would go there all the time.
Dude, for sure.
Yeah. That sounds amazing.
My family always tells me that my hearing is not the greatest, and they think I have wax in my ears, and so maybe I should go.
Yeah, go check
Give
it
a
out.
shot. Yeah.
Yeah. I seriously, I'm freaked out that, because I Q-tip like every day, but I feel like I'm just pushing more and more deeper in.
Well, that
And
is sort of a problem
Yeah.
with those things.
I
right?
know someone that had to go have surgery and have it removed and stuff. I'm like, I wonder if my hearing issues are not because I'm a drummer, but because I just cram earwax in there.
My dad
Maybe
said he
it's
went
a
to the
coping
doctors
mechanism.
and they did something to his ears and it just came out just 2 inches of just earwax from deep within. And he's like, oh, I feel amazing afterwards.
Yeah.
I wanna try it.
He needs an ear cleaning parlor. Dude. All right. Well, you don't know anything about that one.
No.
That's disappointing. How about the people cramming into the subway,
Oh yeah, that's a thing.
Isn't
I mean,
that
it's
everywhere?
not like all the time every train line, but if
rush
you,
hour?
like rush hour on the big lines, yeah, you see it happen. I have been on those trains before too, where it's like the train's full, and you don't think there's room for more people, but it happens. like
crazy.
you're like, I don't know how you're getting on, and they're like, oh, okay, you're getting on.
I guess I'll catch you.
You
Okay,
know.
no, you're here.
Yeah. And then you just get to the point where it's like for the next couple stops, you're like sardines.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
just,
gosh.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, one thing that's kind of unfortunate is that, as a guy, you don't really care, but as a woman, some women don't really feel safe about it, and it is kind of a problem where some guys kind of take advantage of the
Oh my
situation.
gosh.
Yeah. So actually, to kind of, address that issue, now there are women cars, women only cars on I think a
Wow.
lot of trains.
So is that much of an
Yes.
issue that they?
Yeah.
Whoa, dude.
Yeah. So
people, man.
Yeah.
Do you tower over everybody in the subway in a packed car?
I don't. I mean, maybe. How tall are you?
Like 6'1".
Okay, you might.
How tall are you?
I think I'm only 5'8". So.
Don't say only. 5'8".
That's a perfectly acceptable height.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like I'm not short, but I'm just not. I'm, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm comparing myself to all my brothers.
Yeah.
But my nephews,
Yeah.
gosh, I got some huge nephews.
Dude, you definitely do.
But so yeah.
Anything else on that list?
I mean, a couple things like a capsule hotel. Have you heard of capsule
Ooh.
hotel?
I've heard of that.
Yeah. Capsule hotel is definitely a thing. Have I stayed in one? I don't know if I did ever stay in one.
What is a capsule hotel? I haven't heard of that.
So basically it is a hotel, but the room that you rent, it's not so much of a room, it's more
like a sleeping pod.
It's like a pod.
It's like jail.
Yeah. I've slept in something that is capsule-like before, but it's definitely a thing, and it's.
Is it expensive? Do you know to stay in?
It's not as cheap as you would think.
Yeah, you would think it'd be just like cheap,
Yeah,
dude.
like staying at a hospital or something.
Yeah. I remember it wasn't as cheap as I thought it would be. Excuse me. But it's crazy because, like, I don't know if these other things are on that list, but there are other types of, like, sleeping arrangements in places that are just kind of unique or, like, not here. Like, there's one where it's, like, an internet cafe, and it's basically, like, you would go there really, either to, like, browse the internet or read some manga.
What?
Manga is, like, anime. Do you know what anime?
Yeah.
So manga is like the comic version of anime. That's all.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so that's a good LARPing location.
Sure, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, people that are into that type of stuff would probably hang out here.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
the thing is, some people,
Baseball.
and like you get
You know you're a mind reader.
but so you get your own room or your own space when you go to these internet, or manga cafes, and they're pretty cheap, and you also get access to like a drink bar, or like a soda bar, and so some people use these internet cafes as like their living quarters. They just, because it's cheap and it's accessible, and so they get free drinks and bathroom, and so they'll just like post up in the internet cafe for the night. And and actually I have done this once because I don't remember it. I don't remember exactly how it was. I was traveling from point A to point B, and like I arrived somewhere like in the middle of the night, and I was trying to get some sleep, and so I decided to try sleeping in one of these places. And so it was I admit it was kind of like odd because it's like you have your own space, but you don't, like, because it's like it's still kind of like an open. You have like your own room, but it's still kind of like an open area.
It's kind of like a cubicle.
Like a cubicle, yeah. And so it was odd. But and then the other one is like if you've heard of love hotels, where it's like it's like basically, for example, you and your wife, if you wanted to get away somewhere, you could go there.
Okay.
And do
Love
your thing.
each other.
Yeah, exactly. And so, they support LARPing.
Yeah.
And you would be happy. They have different themed rooms.
Oh, nice.
Oh my god,
Dude, that's crazy.
wild.
Actually, if you do you remember the Wolverine movie they made, like Wolverine in Tokyo?
Yeah.
No.
In Tokyo?
Yeah.
Well, there's one of the movies of Wolverine where
He
like
goes
he
to
goes
Tokyo.
to Tokyo.
Goes to Tokyo.
Is this like a Hugh Jackman one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He went to
Hugh Jackman.
Tokyo?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Jackman?
In that movie, they actually find themselves in a love hotel at one point. They're trying to hide from like whoever's chasing them. So it's
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
We'll have to check that one out.
yeah.
Didn't you ride your bike like a really long distance?
Oh yes, I did.
Dude, I want to hear about this because I only saw part of the story on your Instagram.
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
yeah. Okay, yeah. So I actually have 2 trips that I've done on the bike.
Okay.
But the one you saw on the Instagram, which definitely had a lot more events on it, was the second one. So basically, when I finished my most recent English teaching stint, which was in northern Japan in Aomori, I wanted to go on a bicycling trip from Aomori to Tokyo, which was probably about 600 miles. And part of the motivation for doing this biking trip is that I basically failed on my previous biking trip, which was like half the distance.
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's just go
So
harder.
double it.
Yeah.
Because with this, basically I was trying to bike on my biking path. I had this mountain that I was trying to bike up. And I think maybe I could have done it, but it was like I had a broken bicycle for this first biking trip. Not a good idea.
Yeah.
and so
Was it a mongoose? Tell me it was a mongoose.
like a mountain bike?
Yeah, no, a mongoose is BMX,
It
but
was
they're not
not,
good for
no.
long distance.
Oh,
That was a dumb joke. Sorry,
it was a
keep going.
mountain bike
Okay.
though, and it was not.
The
I had a
chain,
mongoose.
the
I should have
chain
had a-
fell off that joke.
I know. I wasn't giving myself.
But yeah, so basically, I was trying to bike up this mountain. It was not working.
Schooling me on.
And I had to basically call the owner of the hostel. Actually, I couldn't call because I was in the mountain. I had no signal. I had to email, with my phone on 7%, be like, "Hey, if you don't come pick me up, I might not make it." and thankfully he did, and I was very thankful. And yeah. Anyway, so because that happened on my first trip, I'm like, all right, we're gonna redeem ourselves. Take 2. Double the distance, but I got a better bike. My bike's not broken this time.
Still a mountain.
No, it was more of like it was like a city bike or like a hybrid bike. So
No, I mean, like, did you keep the same mountain that you had to traverse on this
no,
path?
no, different. Because I was coming from a different place,
Okay.
completely different. Yeah. The first biking trip was from Mie, which was more west.
Okay.
Anyway, so take 2, northern Aomori to Tokyo, 900 kilometers, and just about every day, something life-threatening happened. I would say probably the most notable thing happened on day 1, and it was like an 8-day trip, and so I was like, had a big mountain on my first day. Just
Different mountain though.
different mountain, yes. Yeah. And I'm like, but I got a better bike. I'm starting out early in the day. Like, I am conditioned. I am prepared. Like, let's go, So I'm biking through the day, and it's getting to be about 5 p.m. And so I still have a good amount of distance, but I've got a lot more time, I still got like 6 hours in the day, right? And so... And I'm going up the mountain, and I'm, walking sometimes, biking others, but I'm still, I'm feeling good. And I'm on like this middle of nowhere mountain road. It's like trees on both sides, not really very many hardly any cars, just like me just going. And I'm going. And then suddenly, about 100 yards in front of me, coming out of the trees, I see a black bear just like saunter onto the road. And I just freeze, and I'm like, please don't look this way. Please don't look this way. And I'm thinking, I'm like, if he starts chasing me and I turn around and go downhill, I think I can outrun him. Like, I have no idea if I really could or not. I think Ben the Hunter probably has better.
Well, bears have trouble going downhill. So
is
you are
that
supposed to
true?
run downhill for a bear.
I learned this after the fact, but I didn't know that at the time. So I'm just like, seeing my life flash before my eyes, and I'm just seeing this bear like very casually. He has no care in the world. He's just like crossing the street and going up the hill, and I'm like, keep going. You just keep going.
Yeah.
And he disappears off into the hill. And after a few minutes, I'm like, well, I guess it's okay to keep going. So I keep going. And then I come up to this intersection. It's like 3 ways. And there's a sign, and it's only in Japanese. So, but thankfully I read Japanese. So I read it, and it's like, caution, do not park your car here to harvest mountain veggies, because there are bears here. And I'm like, I could have used that sign a couple miles back, bro. So I'm like, so I'm like, gosh, well, what do I do now? And so,
Are they the same type of black bear that we have here?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I felt like it was maybe smaller, but I mean, 100 yards away. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, what do I do? And I see a car coming, and I flag him down. And so I'm like, hey, coming from the other direction. I'm like, hey, have you guys seen any bears? Because I'm thinking, if it's not too much more uphill, I know it goes downhill at some point, and I'd feel safer if I get to there. And I'm like, how much further uphill is it? They're like, well, it goes uphill pretty some ways, but we saw a bear back there. like another one. I'm like, oh, really? And so they're going the opposite way. So I'm like, okay, so I let them go. And then, so now I'm like starting to sweat. I'm like, oh man, what do I do? I could call a taxi. So, or I'm like, what are my options? So
the hostile guy again.
yeah, I know. I'm like, I don't want to do it, but I want to eat dinner. I don't want to be dinner. You know what I'm saying? So a car comes from like the second direction, which I think is a dead end, but I'm just trying to figure out my options. So I flag him down and ask him. I'm like, hey, what goes that way? Is there anything up that road? And he's like, oh, coming from work, and I just saw a bear though. And I'm like, oh yeah, thanks. And then I'm like, well, can you stay here with me while I call a taxi? Because I don't feel safe. And so the guy's like, okay. So I try to call, but again, no signal because I'm in the mountains. I'm like, these freaking mountains.
Yeah.
So I tell this guy, this like Japanese, man who's coming home from a hard day at work. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but can you call the taxi for me? Because my phone's not working. And he's like, all right. And so
He's like, I'm about to get robbed.
so he calls the taxi. And, and I can kind of hear both sides, because I'm close enough and I understand Japanese. And so, and I'm translating because it's all Japanese. But he's basically like, hello? Hey, yeah, can I, can you bring a taxi? He's like, yeah, where are you? He's like, yeah, I got this, like, random white guy in the middle of the mountains. And he's, he needs to be picked up. And the guy's like, yeah. And I'm like, make sure he has room for the bike, because I got 7 more days to go. And so the guy's like, oh yeah, and like, do you have room to take his bike in the car? And the taxi driver's like, oh, the bike? Oh, no, we don't have room for the bike. I'm like, oh, God help me. Like, I'm not breaking the third commandment. I'm like, God, please help me. This is a prayer. And so, just like then, like this other car comes, who's actually going in the direction I need someone to go in. And so I jump out in the road at this point because I'm just like, this is safer than staying here. And so I flag him down. I'm like, hey, there are bears everywhere. Please take me. And so thankfully he did. He was very, very good gentleman. And he had room for the bike. Yes,
Nice,
it was a tight fit, but it worked. Yeah,
You barely made it.
yeah. That was day one.
Thank you.
I was like, wait for it.
So anyway, that was day one. Other things, just to give an overview, I almost got arrested. I biked through a typhoon. I tried to bike through the nuclear power plant area.
Smart.
Got stopped by a bunch of mutants.
and then at the end of the trip, this one LARPing bro. And then at the end, I got a flat tire. I'm like, well, I mean, this is probably the most tame thing that's happened to me all trip.
It's awesome.
So
So you did this whole thing by yourself.
yes.
And I was wondering why I stopped getting updates on it.
He died up there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like God was up there. He's like, man, my son is an absolute idiot right now, but I gotta get him to Tokyo.
So did you make it?
I did. Well, am I still here?
Well, I mean, like,
Oh.
did you bike all the way, or did you?
Well, so basically, I had these hostel or hotel or hostel arrangements each night throughout the path, and so I believe there was 2 days that I used a taxi, maybe a third, just because there were a couple days where there was a long distance, but. Well, and there was the day when my life was at risk.
Right.
But
Most of you would have gotten to Tokyo. I think.
but besides those, like maybe 2.5 days, yeah. So I probably biked 700 kilometers.
Dude, that's so sick.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest food you've eaten?
So it was a type of sushi. And I remember this one because it was back in my study abroad. I went with a couple friends to a sushi, conveyor belt sushi restaurant. You guys heard of those?
Mm-mm.
Oh, so in Japan, it's kind of a common thing where it's like they make sushi. It's kind of like a sushi fast food restaurant.
It comes on a conveyor belt?
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
How'd you piece that together?
Or is it like a buffet where you can just get unlimited?
They charge you by the plate.
Ah,
Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
nice.
And different colored plates are
their
different
sushi's
prices.
probably so good.
It is good. It's very good. Much cheaper too.
And what was the type of sushi? Was it like
Right.
frogs or something?
Yeah. So I asked my friend, I'm like, "What's
Frogs.
Yeah,
what is?"
frog sushi?
I was like, "What is the craziest kind of sushi?"
Dude, what do you do? Why are you trying to get that? Dude, sushi's disgusting enough, dude.
Oh man, it's so good, man.
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. Before I tell you the gross one, I'm going to tell you the good one.
Okay.
If you ever eat sushi,
Get
and
a
not
California roll.
The California roll's the most boring, dude. There's like no flavor.
if it makes you feel better,
Or
not
sushi.
all. If it makes you feel better, not all sushi is raw.
Right, yeah, California roll.
Is there even fish in that?
No,
think
it's
so.
just like avocado. Like
Yeah.
I've only
And
had
imitation
raw sushi.
crab meat.
I've only ever had raw sushi once, and it was so much worse than I thought it was going to be.
What was
Like-
it?
What
Was
was
it
it,
wrapped
Stu?
in rice
It
or
was one
just
of your.
like-
It was like a tuna thing, right? It had some sort of
tuna?
chunk of tuna on it, dude. It
Okay,
was.
all right.
It was so gnarly, and I was expecting it to be horrible, and they were like, "No, it's really good." I was like, "Oh man, it's gonna be terrible," and it was so much worse. It was so much worse than I thought it was gonna be.
Oh my gosh!
Dude, sushi's
You must
my
have gone
favorite
to
thing.
you must have gone to a bad restaurant.
Yeah,
to be fair, though,
definitely
look
they had
at it.
sushi.
This guy's
Did
not
you
gonna
capture
eat
it in
sushi.
Lake Anna?
Dude, this restaurant was so bad they weren't even cooking the food, bro.
That's the way it's supposed to be. No.
Yeah, actually, it was
Actually-
believe it or not, it was Osaka.
What?
Yeah, Osaka.
You
has-
went to Osaka?
I love that place.
in
Not the-
it-
not
the restaurant
American
Osaka.
restaurant. There's an American restaurant chain called.
It's a
Osaka.
hibachi
It's a
Japanese
hibachi, yeah.
steak.
Oh, you mean like Otani?
No,
It's probably the same idea, right?
Yeah, like Kobe, Osaka.
Like Kobe.
Okay,
but-
that place. If it's a place I'm thinking of, that
Well,
not real Japanese.
there's a bunch of them. Yeah, there's a this
No,
this
no,
particular
no,
one
no,
is
no, no,
Osaka.
no,
There's one in like Warrenton and Culpeper.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, it's awful.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'll take
Sometime,
you.
If I'm
sometime
ever,
I need to take you to a real Japanese.
Some of us
yeah,
think
if
it tastes
I'm in
great.
Japan, I'm gonna hit you up. You can take me somewhere.
Yeah. Okay, so, tangent to the tangent. I have eaten raw chicken before.
Oh, interesting. I've heard that you can do that.
Yeah, it's like sashimi where it's like it is always raw fish.
Mm-hmm.
I had chicken sashimi,
Interesting.
and it wasn't bad. I did feel it the next day.
I was in the hospital for a week.
Wasn't that bad.
Overall,
Apparently that-
positive experience.
Yeah, exactly.
It was so good, you got to try.
Would
it.
recommend.
Anyway, but so if you ever eat sushi again, which
No.
I would recommend eel.
Oh, dude.
Eel.
At least eel sauce.
I'm not eating that cooked, bro.
No, it's cooked. It will be cooked,
Oh.
but it is cooked, and it's not slimy or whatever the way you would think. It's actually, I mean, it's almost like a soft chicken or a soft like a tender meat.
And it's really good.
And
I would eat it. I would
they
eat
put
it.
like a sweet barbecue sauce, like
Ooh, that's what's
it's
up.
good. It's
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Anyway, okay, but the crazy one that I ate that I will not eat again. This is. I asked my friend, "What's the craziest thing on here?" And
No, is
she
it
was.
that egg thing. That's
We just let
Dude.
the man talk.
sorry. I'm sorry.
I've had that.
It
It's
was.
the worst.
It is called salted gut of squid. And
Why that sounds bad.
and I ordered it, and it comes in like 2 pieces, and so it was like this big pile of goop. You got like the seaweed with the rice wrapped around it, and then inside it's like just like this pile of goop.
Like eating a loogie.
Like the ink.
And so I ate half of one piece, and like I almost gagged. Like it was, and so then like, yeah, I barely finished the one piece, and I gave the other piece to my friend. I'm like, I can't do this.
Ugh.
You ate balut or whatever that stuff's called?
Yeah, dude. Balut. Have you had balut?
No, what's balut?
It is. It's like a halfway developed chicken egg,
And they ferment.
and
it. Don't they ferment it?
Oh.
No,
Oh.
I don't think so.
Is
They
that-
just they hard boil it,
Oh.
so it's like the embryo in there.
Is it Taiwanese? I'm trying
It's
to remember.
Filipino.
Filipino, yeah.
Yeah, so we were down there. They gave us that on our first night down there, and it was disgusting. And I bit into it. I got some hip cartilage stuck in, like I couldn't chew through it. They got the feet and toenails and feathers.
Stop.
And you're chewing through a baby.
That's like it's a partially developed egg, or like it's fertilized and partially developed.
Chewing through
Man.
a baby.
A baby chicken.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
disgusting.
I got you.
It-
I'm not in.
Some people loved it. You do dip it in vinegar, but it doesn't help.
Oh my gosh.
Vinegar
Wow.
can save a lot of things. but it
Okay,
can't save
well,
that.
I'm gonna close it out by asking you kind of a serious question,
Okay.
and see if where it lands. But so have you ever read Misreading Scripture Through Western Eyes?
I don't know if I read it, but I've definitely heard of the book.
Okay, so for those of us that, or for those of you guys that haven't read it, it's basically saying we come from a Western culture that's very individualized, and the culture that the Bible was written is from an Eastern culture, and so it's a collectivist culture. There's a lot more, like the emphasis on things that go unsaid is a lot more prevalent in Eastern cultures, whereas we take a lot of things for granted when we read the Bible and Scripture and stuff because we have Western eyes. So my question to you is, living in an Eastern culture for the better part of 9 years, do you find that allows you to interpret Scripture better with that mindset, or is it not forefront? Because like you were saying, the working 12-hour days and stuff, it's that collectivist mindset where we're all doing it together as a group. So the different things like that sparked my thoughts.
Yeah. I would say, I think I'd first say, I mean, I feel like this is something I've kind of grappled with, over the years, but it's like Western and Eastern culture, those are two pretty big categories, like macro categories. Sure. And just like to give an example, like Japan and China are both, Eastern countries, but their cultures are very different, like night and day, like in terms of like the way, like Japan is like very like organized, orderly, neat, polite, plans ahead. And China is just like very kind of do things as you go, spontaneous, figure it out as you go, and therefore kind of looks disorganized at times, and like they haggle and just very speaks their mind, like very you know.
Mm.
And so, and so having having said that, it's like Japanese culture and Middle Eastern culture. I mean, there certainly are some things that are, in common, like maybe some of the group emphasis on group,
Sure.
collectivist and things, and maybe just kind of like high context or just, what was it what you said about like emphasis on the things that are unsaid rather than.
Yeah, so like
yeah.
scripture takes a lot of things for granted that
Yeah.
you're in a Eastern culture
Right,
as far
right.
like a lot of the things that they go over in the book is like we read like raise up your children in the way they should go and when they're older they don't have to depart from it.
Sure.
As you're talking to my child
Mm.
and if I raise my child in that way when he's older he's not. But an Eastern culture would look at that. You're raising up the next generation in the way they should go, and when they're raised, the generation will be okay. So
Yeah.
some might fall through the cracks, but ultimately, we're talking about the cumulative versus the individual, and that goes through a lot of scripture throughout. Like, whereas Americans, we take it as like it's all about me and God's relationship, where the Eastern says it's about the bride of Christ, which is the church as a whole, and God's relationship. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. So I think what I would say, and I feel like this comes back a little bit to one of the points that I was making earlier, is that, so of course Japanese culture is a different culture than, the culture of Bible times. But I feel like it comes back to the point I was talking about how cross-cultural encounters, bringing us closer to God and closer to Jesus. And I think it's, man, this is getting to like the thing that I'm really passionate about. But
Japan.
trying to think of how to, or just like I'm trying to think of how to frame this. So in Revelation 7, chapter 7, verse 9 talks about how in the end, in the new Jerusalem, the new heaven and earth, there will be people from every nation, tribe, and tongue there. And that's awesome. Like we love that. But I feel like Revelation actually takes it even a step further. And it says in Revelation 21:9, or 21:26, excuse me, that it says that the glory and the honor of the nations will be brought into the new heaven, the new earth, the new Jerusalem. And I think what is the glory and honor of the nations? And glory is like the things that make that nation great or that are good about it. And I think that there definitely are caveats and clarifications that need to be made on this topic, but I think I would say that, of course, all of humanity, has been affected by the fall and by sin. And so there's definitely that aspect of sinfulness that needs to be confronted in every culture that you go to. But at the same time, I think because we're all made in the image of God, imago Dei, that even in, broken cultures, wherever you go, you're going to see at least glimmers of this image of God, in these cultures, because culture is made by humans and humans are made in God's image, right? And so, and I think it comes back to what I was saying earlier about, just this cross-cultural encounters of, when we read the Bible, we as Americans or, as, white men,
Speak
and we
for yourself.
are
Sorry. Keep going.
and
I'm 1/82nd Cherokee, so
excuse me. But it's like a Japanese woman or an African African mother, or like different people are going to see different things in the Bible. I mean, the Bible is still, of course, is the authority for truth, but I think that people from different backgrounds are going to see or notice different things, or different things are going to pop. And so I think and so I think that's another reason why it's important to have, to build relationships, with people from different backgrounds in the Christian faith, with our brothers and sisters from, different walks of life, because it, helps us to see Christ from different angles.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like in Japan, I feel like that there, probably is more of an emphasis on like humility or honor, like honoring authority. I feel like in my time in Japan, I've learned more about that, and so so I guess to answer your question, it's, I feel like that. I mean, I don't know if. I mean, there are definitely some ways where I think Japan or Japanese people or Japanese culture, they probably see some of these things that we don't, as easily in Scripture. But then I would say, there is kind of the flip side where sometimes, because of there are some things that are a little harder for them to see in Scripture. And one just quick example is the way that the word sin was translated for them was kind of like translated as like crime. So sometimes Japanese, who are not Christian, they wrestle to be like, do I really do like evil things? Like, I don't kill anyone, I don't steal, and and so but it's just like, actually, it goes deeper than just
Right.
yeah.
You're not in jail, so you're not going to hell.
Yeah. So anyway,
That's cool. That's a good. That's a good perspective. It's like a mosaic. You know, where each culture is its own little piece. And in the book, they actually say, imagine you go to a house and you look through one window and you can explain everything about that room from that window. But then now you walk 90 degrees to the other side and you look in a different window. Well, you're going to see what's behind the couch now. And so each window is going to show you different things about that room, but you're not going to get the whole picture unless you circumvent that room and see all the different things. So
and
cool.
I think just one last image to bring it together, but it's like, and it highlights how the communal nature of following Jesus, right? That we are the body of Christ best when we are doing it together. And so,
I wish we had a bomb sound.
I do want to ask the last two questions on the list because I am curious. Do you have any hobbies that you picked up while there? Like part of that, like you do?
Yeah. So, I mentioned maybe before we started doing the podcast, but I have taken up a musical instrument unique to Japan. It's called the shamisen, and it's basically like a 3-stringed banjo with an ice scraper for a guitar pick.
And he's brought it for us tonight.
Awesome.
I did bring it to America. If I had known.
I really wish we could. Violence sucks compared to the Chicano.
The ice scraper pick.
Any other things?
Is that is that like the traditional Japanese music that you hear, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, like playing?
If you watch Naruto,
show?
you definitely hear
What
the
in the world,
shamisen,
dude.
Okay,
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna know that reference.
everyone knows Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Nobody knows.
You know Avatar, right?
Well, now that they got the Netflix series
exactly.
going,
He knows it.
But to get back to what you're saying, man. So I've been doing that. I mean, reading has always been a hobby of mine, I think. But another thing I've picked up recently since going over there. Well, I got a couple things. I have started doing dancing, like street dancing.
Nice.
Like breakdancing?
That's like one of the sub schools of it. I think I'm just trying to do like, general hip hop dancing.
We might need a demonstration.
Yeah.
Oh, I
we fade
just
out.
started. I'm not
All
ready.
right,
We
for
have
this.
cardboard on the.
Next time you come, dude.
Okay, all
You'll
right.
have to bring your cardboard box to do it on.
Yeah.
And then another thing, just kind of in my personal fitness as well, just been trying to get a little more into calisthenics.
Yeah.
Like
what kind? Like what do you?
my dream is I want to be able to do the full planche push-up. That would be sick.
What's a planche
That's
push-up?
where your feet are off the ground, right?
Yeah, it's like you're doing a push-up.
How
but
close
your
are you
feet
to that?
off the ground? Not at all.
So your hands are like at your hips, or your feet are just way up in the air? Like,
You're-
how do you balance that?
I think your feet are kind of up in the air, and you're using your core to
Good
stabilize.
grief.
Yeah.
That sounds horrible. Did you get a tick?
Yeah, I think it's
looks
probably from
awesome.
Dan's dog. I got a tick.
I had
Probably.
a tick.
That's
and
a tick?
That's a tick.
Flicked it off the porch, but it
Was that
might
on
be
your
the same
hand?
one.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a
Can
cut.
you check me for ticks before I leave?
Why don't you go to a hot
You
tub?
get, you got
Yeah, they'll find them when you get back.
monkeys pick
Another-
bugs off each other.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, and so
I don't like how deep that metaphor goes on this conversation.
it's a pretty good metaphor. Okay. So
Can we
then
kill the tick?
yeah, we'll kill it.
Well, gotta flush it.
We got to flush it. You can't just crush it.
Well, they don't. I feel like they never die unless you
Well,
flush them.
I don't have my knife with me. Stuart, you got a knife? Dude, come kill this thing.
All right, play us out, Steven.
Well,
There's one more
There
question.
there was one
right?
more
Oh.
question. I want that last one you wrote down, the encouragement
Oh.
one. Like,
Yeah.
what encouragement do you have for someone feeling the call to do more for God?
Yeah.
I like that
No,
one as an end.
And I like that question too. I actually wanted to answer it.
Guess I'll put this violin down.
Yeah.
Good thing I got the 128 gig card.
Before I answer it, can I ask a little bit? When you say someone who wants to do more for God, could you flesh that out a little bit?
Yeah, like mission work specifically, or someone that was I don't know. You just feel the call for God to like pulling you to do something. I wrote the question. That's why. I
Oh, you
answered
wrote it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I would say, for someone who wants to do more for God, I guess I would say maybe a couple things. I think the first thing that I would say is, I'm having trouble
yeah,
concentrating.
take the mic
Get,
off
get
the
rid of,
table.
kill
as
the
you're
tick.
grinding
Kill
it.
the tick.
It is officially
Go give it to a chicken.
Do you know?
Gosh.
Are you aware that there's a tick in America that it'll bite you and you can't eat red meat anymore?
You mean like it gives you an allergy?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Sometimes it goes away though.
That's
My
it's
brother-in-law's had it for several years now.
Wow.
it's so scary to me. I don't care about ticks at all. I don't care about Lyme disease. I know that it's a bad thing and you shouldn't have it, but I'm so afraid of getting the allergy to red meat. I can't handle.
Okay. All right. Here we go. All
Sorry.
right. No,
Back
you're
to
good.
back in the zone.
So, for someone who wants to do more for God, I think the first thing that I would say is I don't remember exactly where it is, but Jesus talks about when you pray, when you spend time with God, go in your closet, and shut the door so that no one sees you, and there your Father will be in the secret place. And so I would say, get into the secret place. Spend time with God, reading His Word, praying, worshiping, of course we worship on Sundays, but like making a time to worship God, whether if it's using your violin or your voice, pre-recorded songs.
That was not worship.
No, I mean,
He says a
but-
joyful noise. He doesn't say a beautiful noise, so we're good.
Because I think the most important thing, if you want to do more for God, you need a deeper revelation of your identity in Him as His beloved Son, because our doing is ultimately going to flow out of our being, and you can't give what you haven't received. And so I would say, like, to build that relationship with Him in the secret place. And, and you can ask Him, like, what does He say? What is He putting on your heart? And so I would say that first. And then I guess second thing, I don't know where you are in life, if you're married or have kids or just, I don't know your life situation, but I would certainly.
This is just a question in general.
Okay,
not-
sure,
yeah, not-
sure. Okay, yeah. I mean, I would just encourage people, a good way to just, if you have a way to set aside a time or a season to just really seek or pursue God in general, whether if you, go and do like, YWAM has like DTS, like discipleship training schools that you could do, or just make a shameless plug for my church. We have a ministry school. You could come join us for like 8 months and, just grow in your identity in Christ and hearing God's voice and, evangelism and ministering with Holy Spirit, all that. And
Yeah, do you want to plug that? Like, how can they reach your school if they're interested?
oh yeah. So if you go to awakeningasia.org, that is our our church website. It's got the church, the school, and everything on there, all the details. So I think registration is closed for this year, but you can register for next year, and yeah, it's an amazing time. God is moving there, and so yeah.
That's so sick.
Nice.
So-
All right. Let's do the
Do it
violin
real
thing. Play us out.
Before I get off, Mike, I want to say thank you so much
Yeah.
for showing
Yeah.
us.
Steve,
Dude,
yeah,
you
thank
had
you so much
Awesome
for
flying
having
in
me.
just for this.
yeah.
Yeah.
As I stated,
Actually-
give Dan your receipt. We'll have our sponsors.
I
put
do
that
want to
over
say, when like a month ago when I saw him, I was like, dude, how available are you? He's like looking at his calendar. He had like 2 nights that weren't spoken for. It seemed like. So this is a pretty good get for us, I have to say.
Yeah. I was very, very blessed and happy to be with you guys. Thank you
Awesome,
so
man.
much for having me.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Check for ticks when you're done.
Yeah, we'll check you. We'll check you for ticks.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Dude, I can't even do it.
I feel like we should be dancing around in like a circle or something with a mug of beer.
I wish I had something that I could be more like. You could give us your exit music, but I don't have anything this week, guys. I'm sorry. I've hit the end of my road.
Yeah.
What, it wasn't recording the whole time.
Yeah. Well, we gotta start again. No. Thanks for listening, everybody. Goodbye.